Hello. Tashi Dalai Rinpoche, homage to GARCHEN Rinpoche, long life GARCHEN Rinpoche. And today, so very auspicious day. We have a really good opportunity to receive Heart Sutra teaching from His Eminence GARCHEN Rinpoche. Heart Sutra teaching, the when Buddha Shakyamuni be in the meditation samadhi, and then Chinreze is a Sambhonakaya form received through the Heart Sutra. You know, Buddha Shakyamuni in samadhi meditation, Chinreze receiving from Buddha Shakyamuni. Then Chinreze sharing this teaching to Shariputra. So His Eminence GARCHEN Rinpoche is embodiment of Chinreze. So we have this good opportunity. We are really fortunate directly receiving Heart Sutra from Chinreze, embodiment of GARCHEN Rinpoche. So then today, so all who joined this zone and participating, everyone welcome. And we hosting by Drikung Dharma Surya Center. So we, you know, behalf of Drikung Dharma Surya, everyone, please, very happy to welcome. And thanks very much all these organizers together and this teaching. So now I'm going to chant the, before GARCHEN Rinpoche is going to share the Heart Sutra, I'm going to chant opening prayer. Please, can you share the opening prayer screen? Thanks. All other sentient beings, limitless as a space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstacles who harm me, and those create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and safely may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. All mother sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstacles who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and safely. May they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. Dala Dangwara Zebe Da No Bara Zebe Ge Torba Dang Dam Jen Jembe Barde Jo Bara Zeba Dam Je Je Zor Zebe Mananka Dan Yambe Sim Jen Dam Je Dewa Dang Ding Dongara Dang Jar Nyorde Lana Meba Yang Da Bara Zobe Sanjo Rumboje Obar Zang. For purpose until I attain Buddhahood, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Until death, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. From today until this time tomorrow, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Ye jida sangma je je barde lenga ye song ge wa la go ma ye barde lenga ye song ge wa la go ye sangma shara je barde lenga ye song ge wa la go. I take refuge in the Buddha until I attain the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and the example of the Bodhisattvas, just as Buddhas of the past, giving rise to bodhicitta and the progress along the Bodhisattva's path. So Share I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stage of the bodhisattva's path. Sanjo Nimbo Jija Bar Sanje Namlai Jabzen Judan Sanjo Samba Ye Solan Dejin Jabzen Jadang Deje Sanjo Tongne Jibadang Sanjo Samba Laba La Deda Ren Nebadar Dejen rola bendong de sanjo sene jije shen. Dejen de ne la ba la rumba yen de la ba rje. After awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Example by the merit of generosity and other good deeds. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. After awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Example by the merit of generosity and other good deeds. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Sanje Jidan Zojin Jonam Lai Sanjo Barde Dane Jabzenje Dage Jin So Jibe Sonam Ji Rola Pensar Sanjen Barisho. Next page. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as a space, have a happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering, the causes of suffering. May they never be separate from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as a space, have a happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separate from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May the rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manangadan Yambe Semjen Tamje Dewadan Deve Jodan Dembara George Dongaradan Dongara Jodan Tawara George Dongara Mebe Dewadan Mandrawa George Nyering Chadang Nidang Dar Tanyon Semebala Nebara George. Completely liberated from the bonds of rare and unrare, transcending the name and attributes of arising, cessation, and habiting, coming and going, affirmation and dinner. The Supreme Mandala is the nature state. By offering it, may I be blessed to attain the state of Buddhahood. Om Guru Devanda Kene Rina Mandala Padisa Soha. Next page. Please stand aware of the Dharma of greater and lesser vehicles and the teachings common to both according to disposition and the mental capacity of sentient beings. Semjin Namje Samba Dang Ye Sedra Jeta War Drikung Chujung Kolo Go So.
Ubodu Gaja Ma, Tantin Mazama, Suna, the Taquato Chapter, giving his own Russian Jetados on Chota, Santa Trouble, and Pasala, observation that the mind. Genulo Yonchong Salo. Don't you judge the Lama, Chugam Mama Pama to Wajan, Domba, the Lama. So the kitchen, Yamarone, the Jagayan. I sent to got most of those about Lamajolo, the Asana, Chudin. Ya told me about your Jira or something, than just a Danchina. Somebody Chudin in the thought so. I could go about like she did as an eater. That shot me, we got to go on the bay. Yeah, Rinjayo. She had been more, she had the part of the Dutch of Tom Savory. 这样子虽然通通叫我想你们搞这些呢，你这是龙就落到了在着我嘛，就是这个想你们从啥波的他这样的说个用地，其实用地个车的他这开始就是在线上过去的话，用这里，人家他那些人们他去不去有的，他想你们从这忙过的，人呢，跟你在那里养了没事的，养着呢。没事，没事的，有的，那嘛的，没事的，写个有的，我们那这什么的路的，这么来别说，那路到我爬到那西拉沙路了，没说我的，什么的路看那里，就是大家基本我说，大家光我电视上当个有的，然后什么的路的，一般有嘛的，什么的路的，我那哈光西拉就爬到这上马上，这样做我呢，就是这咋的。那他就没写了，爬到身上。那他就没在这参加准备中，参加中国上面没把就是没把这就是写个要的。这什么年龄的人呢？马基们看那个我你说，到了这中国的谁能看到我这些？现在爬到这什么能看到我这些？这开始就是这上街上去，阿妈在那里，上街他们嘛，上街是第一个阿妈在那差的哩。用起么有的，咱们说基本马这个马了个这个用的，这碰见你啊这里生理作用的这里身体这里实际上就马也地方能去，这里这边呢就是比较用的呢，这内陆的就是比较用是吧这。对内陆的多是常见用这里一般要嘛的，内陆嘛到那个这里全能。常到跨着差着了的，这种靠近一个些也没有，就是别没有人上车了的。可怕的身体上身体嘛的，身体上就常见的我的，这样常到的身体那是有嘛的，这边呢就是别没有人上车了上，用什么做法的？
And Ashidele to all my Dharma friends. And today I'm going to give a teaching on the Heart Sutra, as it was requested of you. And so in general, the Heart Sutra speaks of the perfection of wisdom. And the meaning of the perfection of wisdom is very profound and vast. And now we only have a short time to speak about the Heart Sutra, although its essence is so vast. So it more becomes like a transmission, because the essence itself is extremely profound. I'm lacking the required learning, and I will just explain it in a few words according to all of your requests. And then for a more elaborate explanation, you have KINH Rinpoche who can explain that to you. So there is a lot of meaning to the Heart Sutra. And now saying that I don't know so much, on the other hand, it is not that I do not know the meaning of the Heart Sutra, because all of that, the perfection of wisdom really speaks about is the nature of the mind. Milarepa had said that aside from realizing the natural state of the mind, there is no other perfection of wisdom than that. So we are only speaking about the nature of mind when we speak about the perfection of wisdom. And we should understand it to be the nature of Mahamudra. So it's nothing else but the nature of our mind. If you really understand the nature of your own mind, that is called the perfection of wisdom. And so it begins with its name of the perfection of wisdom that is inexpressible and inconceivable, or it is beyond word and thought. And that is the meaning of Mahamudra. It cannot be expressed in words or thought. And we always mention that. So it is the actual nature of the mind. And so the title of the Heart Sutra, it begins with the unborn, the perfection of wisdom, the unborn, unobstructed, the essence of the space realm of self-aware primordial wisdom, the self-aware primordial wisdom mother. And everything is actually, the entire meaning is contained within these words. So there's space, Ram. The perfection of wisdom is like space. The nature of your mind is like space. And then the primordial wisdom, mother of the victors of the three times, that is the Prajna Paramita. She is the mother of all the Buddhas of the three times. So the mother of all Buddhas and the mother of all sentient beings. So that is why she is referred to as the Great Mother. The mother that is beyond birth and unobstructed. So that is called the Great Prajna Paramita Mother. She is the basis of samsara and nirvana. And that basis is the mind. The mind is what has created all of samsara and nirvana. So she is the mother of all beings and of all the Buddhas. And when you realize the nature of your mind, that is Buddha and nothing else. There is no other Buddha. And if you do not realize the nature of the mind, then for the time being, the mind is just like water that has frozen into ice. So you wander in samsara. But still, that same mind is the basis of both samsara and nirvana. So the text begins with this homage, a prostrate to the primordial wisdom, mother of the victors of the three times, and also of all sentient beings. So she is the mother of sentient beings and Buddhas. And actually, in reality, there are no real sentient beings. What we call samsara does not really actually exist, because all sentient beings possess the essence of Buddhahood. It is just that temporarily, it is like they are like ice, water that has frozen into ice, but there are no really existing sentient beings. So the text begins with this homage, which is a praise to the Great Mother.
책 공만 뒤는 동구요에 나타나기 위해서 이 사자지 뭐지 동리 대사자지 뭐 막람디 이게 주요 민성제 이런 데서 동문에서 소소랑 그 이식을 봤어. 소소랑 내가 소소랑 그 생각 내롭게 따와진 통성나 저는 혼대 당시에 동쪽와요 하고 되고요. 저 니는 이 시간도 팔았으면 동사만 니는 소소랑 내롭게 가지고 또나 저는 사실 돈이 얘기야. 실제는 상대니도 거기서 동들이 저 제만을 위해서 제만을 위해 가려서 란 내롭도는 저는 실제 사실 봐. 나시 이시를 별로 십지 삼지사지 뭐 하고 저들이 제하방하고 태통놀이 참에 십지사지에는 남산 고토가 말이지. 라게 내로도 정말 되게 엄마들이 그게 좀 잡히기 말할 것송 절대적 왔지니 이시치봉 감정랑 정도 야예나 노력 대책인 것이 이시치봉 오토베데 샘팅 당시에 샘용을 샘게 대책인 거리 대하고 뭐 십지 당시 사제절람지 문의를 이렇게 이시치에서 그래 진짜 시합도 팔아서만 나그 샘고 내로 양도와 또 대시합도 팔아서 저가 대래서 소소랑 이시치에 봐서 라그 내로 가지 또나 대시합도 팔아서 생각해서 책 때문에 뒤에는 되어요.
So the entire meaning of the Heart Sutra is really contained in just these, the opening, the title of the text. And it is the meaning of Mahamudra. So it is the nature of mind, or Mahamudra is not, it says it's the essence of the space realm. So it's not something that can be expressed by words or thoughts. So it is the space realm of self-aware primordial wisdom. So this self-aware primordial wisdom means that when you see the nature of your own mind really as it is, then you will understand the nature of all of samsara and nirvana. And actually, that is shown by just these few words. The entire meaning of the Heart Sutra is included in these words. So whenever you realize the nature of your mind, then you have attained the perfection of wisdom. The Buddha himself had said, all sentient beings are actually Buddhas. And also Milarepa had said that when you realize the nature of the mind, you realize that all beings are actually Buddhas. And that is when the ordinary consciousness becomes primordial wisdom. And until we know that, if we don't really understand that, all those who don't really understand that will have doubts about this fact of that all sentient beings are Buddhas. They will not be able to immediately understand that. So you only really understand that when you realize the nature of your own mind. Khenpo Tsultrim Gyamtso had condensed, put together some songs of Milarepa, where that is explained. And then also it is said that within the vastness of primordial awareness, is the boundless palace of the three realms. And in the center of this boundless palace dwells the Buddha essence, the Buddha nature. And so that is an introduction to one's true nature. All sentient beings possess a mind, and therefore they, within them, in the depths of their being, there is Buddha essence, Buddha nature. So that is why when you understand that, you can understand, that you can trust that all sentient beings really are Buddhas. So the perfection of wisdom is when you realize the nature of your mind in an authentic way, really as it is. So whenever you realize that, you have attained the perfection of wisdom. And everything is really contained within just this one line here in the opening that says, it is the space realm of self-aware primordial wisdom.
리시 쭈열시 말까리 다당무소 로바나는 오 당무소 아메리카로 말자라는 강바던 저는 코를 돈절디 나라는 것이 쭈열을 와대 쭈열지 니야 가리지니 쭈열시 바디 디 생그 내로 하고 송라 라리 소디면은 송만하지 저따라 나와 담저랑 그 셈지 나와 셈서 타게 셈지 도말 타 조선들이 롬도 적고 좀 감지 와대 탐지랑 그 셈지 시지 대도 시적고요 대로 다고 나와 잘로 다고 거 당신함 다들은 잘로요 다고 제가 대로 잘 모래 마다 봐라 니지 오늘 대 마음이라 미다 마음이 봐 신소원이라 마음이 봐 신소대 사용 두고 요 말들이 좋은 거 통요 말이 돌아도요 매도 사원이라这个没到上去，每年没到用这不怎么说节约的，哦，这到不说什么这他们让你做什么，大没到的别人上我的了，上节的了，哦，那个现在了，没到有的不怎么做完用的，马面没到上我的拖拉着有的，那个我说没的马面七八里面上节给有嘛的，这个的没做的这里大国情况，各大情况啥个有什么，刚也是。这不知道这送没来问过这人送的，哦，如果这些人不现实，这下搞什么？刚就这种也刚是适当多的也当垃圾，这段时间去年安是，哦，这道当通过了的，哦，这人现在明这道中国的。马面我说罗尔就是那个罗尔这个玩意的，上级种的有罗尔这不什么有什么，我们讲罗尔这没的，罗尔这么的人，哪里牛毛王啊的，牛毛王啊这点在碰不着下，这个这碰不啊，这个是我的找不着罗尔着下，那个车上敲中着下，真破啊下的，这不是这个讲通过的，农业讲通过的。 오, 저렇게 많이 벌었던 게 배대다고 시성은 그 이식이 두어야 돼. 저게 뭐죠? 나디지 주 때 나디지 왜 따로를 또 나온 자료고요. 민중은 다 이식이 두어지 봐. 당시 이제를 뺄了 민중은 뺄了 물론 특히 생각 패디 송말이 나다 렉송하가 죽은 안지 거다 이식을 관장해 봐서 나와 라다 와가 돼서 당시 야에 강은 다이 대단들이 공감이 대단 통투고요. 제 강리지 실공주 덤잡던 배우나 실공주 텀들만 하고 하고 말하는 생각에 실공은 땅들 선남과다 남생이 실공되면 뭐 집안에 봐 대다고 차네 세고 내려고 시작을 받아서 막 대임이 저기 대다고 소문된 통용되나 매장 마음이 제발에 이제 다 끝나서 뭐 원하는 소는 나도 생각 내려고 되니 내가 상계에 나도 생들은 소상계에 말을 쉽지 완전 내가 결혼도 자송은 대송 것에 소소랑 시주에 봐서 선대로까지 전화들이 다고 생각 통도 그 대송 말에 책정 뒤에는 도저히 못 외워야지.
So this Ram of self-aware primordial wisdom, of primordial wisdom. So what is this Ram? So, for example, a Ram is, for example, America. We all see this as our country. And then within that, you have your own environment, your surrounding, your own house, your worldly towns, and so on. So that is one's own like sphere of existence, or one's own Ram. And so what about the Ram of primordial wisdom? How does that appear? It is when you realize the nature of the mind. In the 37 Bodhisattva practices, it says, appearances are one's own mind. And also it is said, first you must resolve that appearances are mind, and then that mind itself is emptiness. And when you realize that, when you understand the nature of your mind, then the Sambhogakaya pure lands and the pure forms will begin to manifest. So when your perception becomes pure, then your surrounding arises as a pure land and pure forms, pure beings. As long as our perception is impure due to dualistic grasping, the mind is in an immature, unripe state. So that's the only difference. For example, it is just like a piece of fruit that is ripe or unripe. If it is unripe, then you can't eat it. You also can't sell it. It's basically a waste. Or it's just like the seed of a flower. When the seed of a flower ripens, then all the perfect qualities of the flower will mature, will become manifest. And so when we first take refuge in the three jewels and then enter the path of skillful means, then we attain enlightenment, which is just like the seed of a flower ripening into a flower. And then all the perfect qualities of enlightenment will manifest. For as long as the seed does not ripen, if it remains in this unripe state, it is like a spoiled seed. But the only difference is ripe or unripe. And so that's the only difference between Buddhas and sentient beings. So when the mind matures, then the various pure lands, the surrounding will manifest as a pure land. So in Khenpo Tsultrim Gyaltse's collection of Milarepa songs, he also makes a reference to the Buddha nature that endows all sentient beings in the 6 realms of samsara. And then it says there, so when you understand this, when you understand Buddha nature, wherever you go is a boundless palace. Whoever you meet is a Yidam deity. Whatever is done within the sphere of Dharmata. So this is how you will then perceive everything when you see the nature of the mind, when the mind has matured. And when the mind is still in an immature, unripened state, then temporarily, due to being confused, the 6 realms of samsara will manifest. However, the Buddha had said, when he said all beings are actually Buddhas, he also said, however, beings are obscured by adventitious stains. So there are obscurations. And these obscurations are the 5 afflictive emotions. And these make us perceive the 5 aggregates in a confused way. And that leads to the manifestation of the 6 realms of samsara. And this is similar to ice or water having frozen into ice temporarily. So as long as we have an impure samsaric perception, all we can perceive is just suffering and misery. That is, as long as the ice has not melted, all we can experience is suffering. So that is the realm of self-grasping. The realm of self-grasping are the 6 realms of samsara. And then there is the realm, the space realm of primordial wisdom. And that is experienced when the mind has matured. Then you experience the realm of primordial wisdom. For example, Minling Chichen had said just the moment before he passed into nirvana, he said that all appearances are the deity, all sound is the mantra, and all rising thoughts are the play of primordial awareness or of Dharma. And all appearances, our form arises as the form of primordial awareness. And so this is how, and then he passed away. And so this is how these great beings, great masters, are seeing things. All forms as the deity, and all sounds as the mantra, and all thoughts as primordial wisdom. So it is just like you have a crystal ball, and all the qualities are included within it. But for as long as it is covered up, you cannot really see its brilliance. But once it is opened up, you can see the sky and everything reflected within it. And so that is when you recognize the nature of your own mind, or it is called the perfection of wisdom. And then all the qualities already inherent in your mind will reveal themselves. So the only difference is maturing or not maturing. In the Samantabhadra prayer, it says, when you recognize the nature of your mind, you are a Buddha. Not recognizing it, you are a sentient being wandering in samsara. So that is temporarily, you are like a block of ice. Or if you're a Buddha, then you move through the realm of primordial wisdom. So whenever you see the nature of the mind, you will see the Pure Lands. So actually a lot of profound meaning, again, is included within these few words.
Then Gelong get with the Sanjok to get you, then Konama Jet and Kon Drama, Northern Nintuga, Sanjok to begin with you, Sanjok to begin with Chibati, and into you get you dinner. Oh, Chin Sanjay song don't take on the quarter about that, Nintu, oh, Chin Chisong, the Nintuga get you. Sanjok to begin with dinner. Oh, you did the law pass something easily. She checked the don't call top of ever charter. There's I talked about getting Santos will get this, that you say she did, Diane Sana to the teenage, there's something. The gardening problem and teenage, and this may be half quarter, the track leader Saturday, Sanjay to Duke or Shari Bucket, G, Shari Bucket in calling Sibalo. Oh, read the book on the part of some 다른 간이다 거래도 되는데 들이들이 살리는 시라지 바르듯이 와서 이렇게 보다 보면 이거 다 초거래지 오 서서 역시도 뭐다 초거래 이제 지금 코디 치발령 때리 산쪽서 베지 시바디 다다 내 위반까지 이 롱병 위반까지 시에는 那礼拜我们一去的宴，有礼拜大概1年过了，多帮礼拜多点上，去礼拜突然嘛就，后礼拜实际上做什么都过他们的吧的。总当我那的上做什么2个世纪计划的，实际上也没把差的哟。那个都是个完了这里，突然让老过多了这里也就是嘛，然后外国人这个他们7、8人，那这个就把去当人呗。这里下里不开啊，这人家不干了，下面的。제가 받아서 왔다 가리다 그래서 뭐 이렇게 보자면 이렇게 보면 다 쳐버려야지 셀리들 이렇게 봐 이렇게 보면 강하나 시합에 받아서 막 제발 언제 다 때가서 오지 대성의 지진이 지다 다들 마도 없습니다 됩니다 다 풍공가가 내지도 성에 뜻다면서 내 돈이 이제 풍공가들이 난유몽가 스풍보가 때라서 와서 제가 제일 난유몽가들 좋았으나 들이 시간을 자르면 민도를 마민가 들이다다네 공신도 민서만도 뒤에 저쪽에 들이 통공가를 자송 들이 마도 없어지대 포고도 따고서 죽고들 비에 따고 자그래 다들 나냐마데 단지데 노카민도래 제게들 나오는 말을 듣다 까마를 떠들 짜서마도 차노래 제 단지로 도마도 따지 들이 노카민 뒤차만 자르는 거를 빼대는지 나오냐면 안지게 들이 진짜 세풍보지 풍보지 맹다오니 무슨 말도 봐도 동띵 차례지 셈을 풍보 셈을 했으나 제 셈을 정말 속고 열었으니 셈을 열었지 저는 오늘 산이요 말이지 대는 풍보시 말이지 마음보도 뽕이야 말이지 좀 나오냐고 도도도 덮고요 말이 세류를 도도도 덮고요 말이 난 셈을 도도도 사자집에서 이스 매배시지 이유는 고라리지 톱야요 말이 대하고는 대시합을 받아서 마성 들이기는 저기 시합을 받아서 말 저기 이제 통보가 못해서나 라기에 또 남을 따오서 탐지 동안을 저들이 들으세요 나를 깨닫는데 무슨 요래지 대초아래 요래 제가 라기 따나 참아 셈래지如果是我们不有关就个人让去给人的我这个这里说的原来差这里是这个发差有这里可话这个来说超龙超过出的他说嘛来
So then after the title is after the setting of the scene. And so the scene was at the time when the Buddha was alive and he was staying in Vulture Peak in Rajgriha. So he was together with an assembly of monks and an assembly of bodhisattvas. So the Buddha had a manifold retinue. There was Sangha consisting of Gelong monks, and there were the Bodhisattva Sangha. There's different Sangha divisions. We also speak about the 4 classes of Sangha. But in brief, we can say there were the Hira or Shravaka Sangha and the Bodhisattva Sangha. The Hira or Shravaka Sangha are called hearers because they listen to the Buddha's teachings and they are able to understand the meaning of all these words. So they are called hearers or Shravakas. And then there were the Bodhisattva, there was the Bodhisattva Sangha. And the Bodhisattvas were those who had completely cleared away all dualistic grasping. And so they dwelt within the state of non-duality. There were different bodhisattvas surrounding the Buddhas. Mainly there were the 8 close sons, bodhisattva sons of the Buddha. For example, there were Manjushri, Vajrapani, Chenrezig, and so forth. And so here it is Chenrezig answering a question of Shariputra. And so Chenrezig is a bodhisattva who had already realized non-duality. So his mind was really non-dual with the mind of the Buddha. So the Buddha dwelt in a state of samadhi, while Chenrezig explained to Shariputra the perfection of wisdom. And so so Shariputra then asks Chenrezig, so how should a noble son or a noble daughter train who wishes to engage in the profound activities of the perfection of wisdom? So that was the question put forth. And Chenrezig then responded that a noble son or daughter who wishes to engage in the profound activities of the perfection of wisdom should consider thusly. And then he continues to explain the empty nature of the 5 aggregates and so forth. First, the point being made in the very beginning is that it's not just the noble sons who can recognize the perfection of wisdom, but also the noble daughters, meaning that everyone can realize the perfection of wisdom because everyone possesses Buddha nature. And so within the Bodhisattva assembly, there is no distinction between like daughters and sons. And the difference between the ordinary retinue and the Bodhisattva retinue is that the Bodhisattva retinue were those who had actualized the 5 certainties of a Sambhogakaya. So there is the certainty of the place, and that is the Dharmadhatu Ram of Akanishta. Then there's the certainty of time, that is the ever-turning wheel of time. Then there is the certainty of the teacher, that is Vajradhara. Then there is the certainty of the Dharma, which is only the Mahayana teachings. And then there's the certainty of the retinue, which is the bodhisattvas on the higher levels. So, for example, those 8 close bodhisattva sons who were all indivisible from the Buddha himself. And only temporarily they appeared in the form of the retinue as a disciple in order to tame sentient beings. And so that is because sentient beings have different mental capacities, higher, middling, and lower. And therefore, there are different methods of teaching or taming them. But although there is a temporary difference when it comes to their Buddha nature, they are all one and the same. So in any case, Shariputra asked the question, so how should one understand the perfection of wisdom? And so then Chenrezig continued in his answer on explaining the empty nature of the first the 5 aggregates. So he says that the 5 aggregates are devoid of self-nature. In the Chakra-samvara practice, for example, it is also said that, so on the outer level, there are the 5 aggregates. On the inner level are the 5 afflictive emotions. And when the afflictive emotions become liberated, one ripens into the 5 kinds of wisdom, or one matures into the 5 Buddhas, the 5 Buddha families. For as long as one is immature, one is like this immature piece of fruit that we mentioned before. Regarding the 5 aggregates, those sentient beings who have not realized the nature of their mind, so immature sentient beings, and they grasp at their body. So they hold on to their body and perceive it as the me, that's me, I'm this body. And so this self-grasping is like a magnet that pulls all the different parts together that then create this perception of a me, an existing I. So that there seems to be this solidly existing entity that is an I. And so not the fact that we call ourselves this me, there's this sound that is this where we say this is me, then that is a sign of self-grasping. So self-grasping is like this magnet that attracts, that pulls together the different aggregates. And actually, none of them inherently exist. It is just like a pile of sand, for example. It is here today, it seems to be really there, but tomorrow it's already gone. So an aggregate is something that consists of many parts. And the I, although it seems like this one solid entity, this one solid being, actually that cannot be found. And so this is what Chenrezig explains here. Ultimately, we come back to the mind. We can't find the self in our body. And then when we look at the mind is also non-dual, non-dual primordial awareness. So actually, the more we try to find the I, there's nothing to be found, nothing to be attained. And realizing that is the perfection of wisdom. So Chenrezig explains the empty nature of these 5 aggregates and how everything is empty. How there's no eyes and no ears, no nose, no tongue, and so on. So now we think that all of these sense perceptions are real. Each sense door has its own kind of perception or sensation it experiences. But actually, ultimately, it all is one mind. So it is the consciousness that's moving around through the different sense doors in the body like a monkey, and exiting through the different doors, perceiving different things. But it's one consciousness. But it is not perceived that way for as long as the mind is like a piece of frozen ice.
Digi Solar to Dio, Tadakazo, Tatu Taviamari, Nabanatana, Tamji, Tomani, you Masas, Nima, you are Tapa Madinzi. Mea Masa Tikta Masam, 7 days old Sama de away. That you want Debal Macha, Manipal Madam Ya, Sort of Karina, theatre, Cha, Pachati Jog, Damn the Tachi Jog. 총선이 제사의 차당기 총선을 해도니 차대 제일 시 박차요 제일 시디 저거 저거 저 박차만고 박차 도고 림지대에서 그나마는 순간 지 박차디 자대 양자 차는 들이만 뭐네 달래 가지는 도요래 문이 세무들이 다다 제타게 마더바치는 들이 다다다들이 또 많이 마더바리 야다 동상 저기가리 산 상을 용도래 가요리 메타단 걸 적가는 대게 이제 딱지라 오 당하고 잡아 도도 좀 없이 다 셈이지 다 셈은 무슨 말이지 들이 저들은 나니 돌디는 거래 나야 잡아 지도는데 그 나오냐 봐자 다 되는 다 납시 될 납시지 납시 돌아 뒤는 납시 되는 거 어때나 그 납시 어때 다 남관하기 차노래 요미가 많이 봐요 다들 원미를 빠르지 따와서 때는 패고 요러면이 롱을 빠르지는 뭐 원미 따와 양이 때는 따와서 뛰는 파바들이 따다다 사치 독치든 맹만 보다 그러는 생의 내력실들이 남카는 차대 요래 어떻게 그때서 남카 가리지 설계와비 파셔와비 제도 오늘 또 붙여들이 요 삼도 파요 매매니 삼도 요 라기 티지 마차 마당 또 먹매 지금 대비 티좀 선거요래 저 요사도 대들이 박차요요래 차당은 가리래 차당이가 박차요요래 박차 마야가 타르들 선거요래 제가 진짜다 이제는 산청선만 원을 토바하는 메시 왜 산청선 토좀 토는 그냥 토르만 추사로 진짜 토마잖아 오, 진짜 요즘에 나야 요즘에 나오냐 반응이 하고서 나서 다 내가 그 도마 이제 통로 다 매바 통로 다 통제 탐지 되게 더고요. 토바요 매를 반 토바죠. 그 토바 매바된 나 매바도 토도 그 세번 받아서 통은 그 세번 내는 거네 또는 그 고대 주탑의 세물로 이제 나와 센터 타지 세미 도마 타지 되는 don't raise some the loss here. Maris of the loss here, the butter tower, the table metal, and Papa, the young nation, how would you but none of the Tobaya mess, talk, Matobaya mess, Matobaya mess. So when you look at the top of the don't get top your so they check it for it.
So then he explains each of the aggregates, for example, the aggregate of feeling and so forth, and then like sounds, sights, sounds, smells, taste, touches. We think that these really exist. So they do not actually exist. But when we say all of these do not exist, then you might think that, well, that's kind of a stupid thing to say of the Buddha, because, I mean, I do have eyes, I do have ears, I do have a mouth. How can you say it doesn't exist? For example, if I ring this bell, you think that, yes, there is this sound. There is the sound. So this feeling arises. But now, a moment later, where is the sound? It has gone. You can't get the sound. You can't find where really is the sound. You can't get the sound. So that is the empty nature of all sense perceptions. So what this is to say is that we should neither think it exists, it is there, nor should we think that it's not there. It's something that cannot be labeled in any way or identified. So do not grasp at it as being either existing or non-existing. The moment we grasp at the existence of things, we begin to attach to pleasant things and have an aversion against unpleasant things. So do not become attached, have no aversion. Just stay in the pure state of your mind, no matter what sense perception arises. Because the moment you become attached, you are placing an imprint in the mind. When aversion arises, you're placing an imprint into the mind. And the subtle counterparts to attachment and aversion are hope and fear. These all place imprints into the mind. And as it is said in the Samantabhadra prayer, gradually those imprints grow stronger and thicker. So we keep placing imprints into our mind, and then like a rainbow, they will reflect, so they will project as our experience. So when saying that these things are empty, it means that they do not inherently exist. So all the sounds and just the sights and so on that you perceive, you think it's really there, like a shape, a body is really there. But where is the body really? Later, after we have died, the body will be just discarded or it will be burned. Then where is the body? You should investigate yourself in this way until you cannot find an I, a self. So then finally, you're left with nothing but the mind. Then you think that's what you are the mind. And so this perception of me all comes down to this self-grasping, this belief in the existence of an I. And that perception is the perception of the ordinary consciousness. So everything comes down to your consciousness. So that's the final thing to look at. And when you look at the essence of your consciousness, it becomes just like space. And within space, neither exists, nor does it not exist. And the way it is resolved according to the scriptures, for example, is through the view of the middle way, the Madhyamaka. According to the path of experience and practice, this view is resolved through the practices of Mahamudra or Dzogchen and so on. It's given different names, but all it is about is just the nature of your mind. when you understand the nature of your mind, you see your space-like nature. Also, this is explained in the Samantabhadra prayer. Space is beyond birth and death. It doesn't arise and it doesn't cease to be. So this is in order to realize just that, and that there's this space-like nature of the mind. So you should let it all be. Let be these thoughts of a true existence of things, but also let be these thoughts of things do not really exist. Do not attach and have no aversion. Just let the mind be natural, and you will see the nature of the mind. And the moment you begin to develop thoughts of something exists, you think that's how it is, or that's not how it is, or attachment and aversion arise, you are already placing an imprint into the mind. So this is a method not to place an imprint into your mind. Then later in the text it says, so for the bodhisattvas, there is no attainment and there is no non-attainment. So if you say that I have attained bodhicitta, and actually you have attained nothing. A bodhisattva has attained nothing. There's no attainment. But also, basically, the bodhisattva has lost self-clinging, has lost the I. So there is no attainment. But it's not that there is no attainment either. By having lost the I, they have attained emptiness or selflessness. So there is, in fact, great attainment, although there is nothing whatsoever that is actually gained or attained. So the I does not gain anything, but what is gained is the space-like nature of the mind. And that is gained when you realize the true nature of the mind. So as we mentioned before, you must resolve first that appearances are the mind, and then that mind itself is emptiness. But then when you realize mind is emptiness, there is no need to think that it is empty or to think that it is not. Be free without any thought, without any grasping in your mind. So this is the way according to the practice lineage of blessings. And in this way, you attain that which is unattainable. When you realize Mahamudra, everything is in fact attained. So these words are important.
Thì 강에 생황 내력들아 제시요마다 시험이라다 무슨 법반양이지라 즉다도 좀 재미처럼이지 오 생콜 제시요마다 류 제시들이 이제디스 무거송들이 코비 장소 류인 코와게 류 속에서 내가 바차에서 내가 바차에 좋아할 때는 다다 내가 미미미상 사건은 무속상나 그 저게 거한테 sem남도데 단진 좀 맞다가 받았더니 차단을 내서 집 차지 동에 미용 거요래 오 스그레서 들리지 바차 받는 그 생비 그 저기 홀로 딱 봐도 배 대스피가 별로 뭐서 뒤 탁바들이 내 가리 지금 대 빼빠잖아 저 카바도 좀 카바나 가지 장만 카바들 생비 빼지 봐요 대 아예 빠져 대차로 대자 노아를 좀 유무 뭐 저든 노아를 줘서 제 양자를 촬영을 뒤 박차 대리 박차 마차로 타도 다더니 저 쪼다다 대서 세번내로 됐다고 또라 라 때문에 박차대 가기 요게 나디 저도 나디 야나지 나 박차대 코타대 나를 나오냐 봐 내가 모르지 핀을 놓아서 저거를 저거 상대 인빈 세면로 인빈을 놓아서 세면 싸마서 저거를 그래서 다냐면 당대 세들 semcho 추가한다고 그랬잖아. 그래서 단 노아를 들어 동네요나 동네에 sem부터 똑같아져 뒤 쳐도고요. 그러는 이 소소된 빈강답을 차대요. 그러니까 라는 뭐 똑바로 돼지 다고 빼대는 아니면 동그리에 들이다다다다 맞아봐 시성은 차당을 해서 그러면 차당을 해마서 쓰는 박차죠 그러면 박차 가지고 때려 상대지 There's a that touching a government me about the government can see till TV shop. TV shop, they shop the you want number touch on the man the toilet. Dharma's on it. This is the Dharma China. Some Dharma disengaged. Some email. Some Dharma China. That email. Oh, now I'm doing the same thing. Chinese continue around the same thing, though. Rather send the check on the happen. They look all the tobacco on the maze. So this is she up the part of this about the same way they look about color. There is my Congo car long down to go. There is market around the same 좋아요 하고 이제 아다는 띠바도 갖고 요래 어야 대회들이 제일 좋고요 뭐도 제일 좋고요 그때 다음에 라는 냥이 냥도 용거래 뭐만 냥용다 제가 어때도 또 말이 냥용들 가래 상부 저는 말을 해주는 유무가 가르쳐도 돼 소화 가르쳐도 되시면 제시 봐요 되거든요 라는 섭비면은 좀 받아서 돌나 강도 쫄람 째서 있잖아. 랑 셈도 내가 들라지. 나도 셈도 똑바 차성을 마도 따라들이 셈도 딱 봐서 그래. 똑바로 그 인피를 놓아서 쳐다 버려. 인피를 놓아서 이는 들이 돈이 하고 그래. 돈이 필요하다. 나이님 독상 때 돈이 래. 오, 셈 그 참새 또 많이 하고 이제 뭐다 버려. 또 많이 하고는 랑 셈도 내로 나중에 이제 마다平白요만 내서 아무 요래. 동네에 또 나님이 독상들이 남치 이시를 보세요. 남치 이시를 보세요. 그래. 이시들은 남간에 도만이 요래 망고라 요래 자다 요래. 세트 대사들이 잡았던 이시로도 즉성 시합도 받아서 마다 하고 이시 마르시는 이시 남치 이시를 보되 남치 이시 제발 강을 그러다 남치데 나인이 요래 서로 나봤던 이시 그래도 좋아하시게 된 남시 사만 남시래지 이 시대 남시라는 거 어떤데 이 시라 보고 그래 이 시대 찾는 사람은 나중에 매라 그들이 매라 다 하고 그러지.
So to bodhisattvas, there is no attainment and there is no non-attainment. And that is because they have attained the perfection of wisdom. And so then it says after that, so when they're, so having completely gone beyond falsity, they have reached the end nirvana, because there is no obstruction to the mind, there is no fear. So the mind, why is there no fears? Because the mind, they have realized that the mind transcends both birth and death. So they have realized that they cannot die. In the Vajrakilaya practice, it says, may the demon of the Lord of Death be overcome through realizing the immortality of the mind. So it is just the body that is bound to birth and death, but the mind never dies and is never born. Therefore, Lord Jigten Sumgen also says that what wanders in the ocean of samsara is the body. So it's the body that wanders in the ocean of samsara. And it's because we have accumulated karmic imprints that create this form, this physical form temporarily. So it is just like having frozen into ice. We have created karmic imprints, and so these lead to the existence of a body. And so the more we separate ourselves from the dualistic grasping of self and other, the more we are purifying these karmic imprints. So the more we purify karmic imprints, the more we liberate ourselves. So on the other hand, the more we grasp to the dualistic existence of self and other, the more imprints we are accumulating. And then these imprints are just like you are taking a film. You're filming something with a camera or with a phone, for example. And so what you're filming is all the various things that you do and think of is like creating this film. And then all of what you do and think of then leaves this imprint. So then the film is stored on the camera or on your phone. And then it can be replayed and it is projected as your experience. So whatever has been filmed, whatever picture you have taken, that is what will manifest. So the 6 afflictive emotions, they create the perception of the 6 realms of samsara. And so these imprints continue to manifest the more we accumulate them. So when we realize the nature of the mind, then these imprints become purified. So therefore, we need to understand how we place imprints in the mind. The imprints are placed into the mind through self-grasping because there is this perception of me. And this is really ultimately what creates all these imprints in the mind. And therefore, the antidote to that is mainly the altruistic mind. In the 37 practices, it also says, all suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. The perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. So when you cultivate an altruistic mind, then that it becomes like like a washing machine that cleanses the mind of all these imprints, all these impurities. So in the 6 realms of samsara, we experience only suffering. And that is, these sufferings are like the stains in our mind that need to be washed away through practice and the altruistic mind. In fact, the 3 lower realms, we can see them just like a hospital, a necessary purification. So when you are ill with the afflictive emotions, they have to be healed, they have to be purified. So when you understand, however, that these imprints in your mind, these afflictions, they do not inherently exist, then you will no longer, obviously no longer accumulate karma with attachment and aversion. And if you do not accumulate karma, you will not place any imprints into your mind. And if there are no more imprints in your mind, then you become a Buddha. And you have perfected the view. The perfection of the ultimate view is to be in an ongoing state of meditation, which is called non-meditation. There's no deliberate meditation day and night. And so that is gained by cultivating mindfulness. Mindfulness recognizes all the subtle afflictions and thoughts in the mind and purifies all these feelings that arise. And when the mind becomes completely pure, then you are a Buddha. So when you think that when you realize non-duality, and you will no longer develop dualistic thoughts, so the mind becomes pure. And that is when you realize that all appearances are nothing but your own mind. All perceptions are nothing but your own mind. So you realize that self and other are one. My mind is just like a crystal, and everything is reflected within it. When you realize the nature of the mind, there is no more thought of existence or non-existence. You have attained the perfection of wisdom. And you understand that everything arises from this nature of the mind, and everyone has this nature of the mind. So this is the nature of the perfection of wisdom, and it is in accordance, these words are in accordance with the actual words of the Buddha and the scriptures. And it is something that cannot be verbally expressed, but it's something that can be understood through experience. And so I can say these words because I have gained an understanding of the nature of the mind. And we can gain an understanding of the nature of the mind. It is just more difficult to really gain stability in sustaining this realization of the nature of mind. And so for that, we need to experience, we need to practice. So our practice must be infused with an actual experience. So we can understand that this is the nature of things and there is no self and other and so on. But we also need to actually experience that ourselves each and every day in order to gain this stability. So each and every day you should recognize all the thoughts and the emotions, the feelings arising in your mind with mindfulness and heedfulness. In the 37 practices, it also says, at all times, no matter what you do, always look at the state of your mind. And do not allow the mind to become polluted. So if you find that now a negative polluting thought has arisen in my mind, you must purify this thought through the water of altruism and an understanding of emptiness. Emptiness means to understand that self and other do not exist separately. And the emptiness of the universe and all sentient beings is to understand that everything compounded is impermanent by nature and does not inherently exist. So that is something you need to actually experience. So we might know all of that. We might know that the universe and all beings are empty. There's no self and there's no other and so on. But in our own personal mind, if we still cannot let go of dualistic grasping, then all of this is of not much benefit. So ultimately, your own consciousness has to transform into primordial wisdom. And so this primordial wisdom, your primordial mind, is like space. It has always been there since primordial times. It will always be there in the future, and it is there now. It is that within the space expanse of primordial wisdom, all the Buddhas are one. So when you realize the perfection of wisdom, then you have actualized primordial awareness or consciousness. The dualistic consciousness has become primordial awareness, a primordial wisdom. So consciousness, again, is the mind that perceives duality. And it is your mind that sees self and other. It sees the outer various objects. It experiences happiness and suffering. It is aware of whatever happens. And that is your ordinary consciousness. And when you realize its true essence, then it becomes primordial wisdom. And primordial wisdom is the ultimate view that realizes that self and other do not exist.
이시 뒤에 봐시 이시지 봐대 다다 하고 특별히 충동하고 때때 냠이잖아요. 이 탐마르시바 진바송에 때까지 요래들 들이다 네 말에 송물에 파시 쪽으로 송물에 뉴모랑 창리과나 이시사와 로르메들 란비 시랍대 뉴모 말 따오나 오 대히 뉴모 같대 니마메마 동서는 다대 이시제래 다 남지 이시는 포데 니마처럼 안 남지 이시는 포소데 제말 요럼 탐지를 진시되고 이제 이시리 니체메 바고 요래지 나로 같이 좀 내가 말해서 어때서 같이 머리 20m 정을 전부 매소야 저도 추치랍도 벌써什么大细哈可能就是냠이 와지는 간 그거 말이에요. ran lesa lo donde de mío por ya cha mío por temblor me lo también 통이 내성 제성 카페 손발에 temblor me lo 내가 대화 de donde estaba mío por le 총사나 They mammy by lady soccer soccer. Nothing soccer, nothing nothing. Penna Yuma, Chok Chiboti, young Yum, Tara Kantina, Yuma Tower, the Killer Capri, young Sharpie, Drinking Musensona, drinking a day, Oh, Jim, you were taught me out over the user, or Taha was only. Did you too long time to shame me by now? Did you see me that tone to me? So I got that. Did you see the man or did you lap to board? Did you talk about it? Consider Monasuma. System did your man drop me, the one at a chapa mate. There's a way in where doubling Sagan talks of much of sort about your man. On Tolator, the same qualification be a half over. The quality shop the part of the Sabati. Oh, that is a young artistry. That don't get a coach about the something young body. Now she shouldn't pause about the quiet one. You came me one for what you not to talk you, not to give out how the shop using. Just tell me about them to the stomach over it. The way you know you should enjoy it. Get out half also, you no one, you were Tories. Oh. You got that talk to you, she did the talk chase or somehow chase over it. They must be moving, she says something. They bought tied out of the thing, you monkey, she pumps on the day, they am the Yamish in my boy or such is okay. There's on the donut, she had the paradise about the tower is darker, she have she had the paradise about your man. They should have the paradise of my yin down me, you know what a donor. Oh, you more on Tanzania did it. You was don't buy a half of the issue. Oh, several told me about all time you know what Zumaris. You want them looks it. You know you see. She don't belong to the issue. No sort of way she did. You know not the issue. So round a half or touch to worry. Teacher told that you should have the parts of the own she was the poor sugar or shabby parts of the shit. Yeah, she was somewhere. Young children talk about the hack over it. The shit I came on with it. Yamyong, the go by Yamyong, the drug, chase on my there's on my dinners and it's the check the heart of each way. Oh, you more on time require you see our lot of mess. Oh, say, told the parrot touches our lot of mess. Did you tell me parrot touches our lot of mess on my life? Some did on the same, that one, nothing team with some thing. I mean, the dog over it. There's a way to do it. This that can't have the conscious just how I three touches the ritual.
So to summarize the meaning of the perfection of wisdom, it is the Ram, the sphere of primordial wisdom, of primordial awareness. And primordial awareness is something that you can understand, even on a smaller level. If you just engage in a little bit of practice, you can understand the meaning of primordial awareness. So what it is just your ordinary, bare mind, your consciousness. That's all it is. Milarepa, when he gave a teaching on the 10 parameters, regarding the parameter of primordial awareness, he said that aside from identifying or kind of exposing the falsity, the falsehood of afflictive emotions, there is no other perfection of primordial awareness than that. So to expose the falsity of afflictive emotions through mindfulness, through clear awareness. When you look at the afflictive emotion with awareness, then you will render these afflictions powerless. And so that is how gradually the dualistic consciousness transforms into primordial awareness. So it's not that one day you suddenly have this experience of now my consciousness has transformed into primordial awareness, but it's an ongoing process of consciousness becoming primordial awareness. It will not happen all of a sudden one day, but it grows. Naropa said to the wisdom, the KINH Guma, that, and these words are very important, that you have to nurture the little spark of mindfulness again and again. until it becomes a large, a vast fire of awareness. And so when we do not recognize that, we will, when there is no mindfulness, then we will accumulate karma. And if we accumulate karma, we will experience suffering as a result. It will ripen. Also, Jetsong Kapam had said that this is the interdependence of things. The interdependence of things is unfailing and will ripen correspondingly, corresponding to what was accumulated. Temporarily, because we do not sustain mindfulness, we do not recognize how things really are, we experience all sorts of things, all sorts of emotions of happiness and sadness, and then driven by these, we accumulate much karma. But who is actually the one? We have to get to the one who actually accumulates karma. It is your consciousness. So you can practice by recognizing that consciousness. So when an afflictive emotion arises, whether it is strong or a very subtle emotion, even if it's just a very subtle emotion, recognize it with mindfulness. And the afflictive emotion, the feeling of that emotion will diminish if you sustain a state of clear awareness. Then you will gain an actual experience of how the entire feeling, this experience of the afflictive emotion completely disappears. And that is when you will feel, now I have understood. You have gained an experiential understanding. And that is an ongoing process. You have to experience this on an ongoing way. So the small spark of fire must be nurtured again and again until it becomes a vast wisdom fire. And then in the end, what happens is explained in the Samantabhadra prayer, where it says, even if the 3 realms were to be destroyed, there is no fear. There is no attachment to the 5 desirables of the senses. So if you have realized that, even if the whole world comes to an end, anyways, you will think each person has just this one life in this world, and then when we die, there's no more world. So if it comes to an end, it comes to an end, but the mind will never come to an end. The mind transcends birth and death. And when you have realized that, you have realized the perfection of wisdom. And also this is what we refer to as the Vajra-like body. You attain a Vajra-like body when the consciousness transforms into primordial awareness. And so it is something that, again, you have to experience on an ongoing basis. It will not happen at once, but it happens gradually on an ongoing basis. So the moment an afflictive emotion or just a thought arises in your mind, instantly recognize it with mindfulness and gain the direct experience of how clear awareness will eliminate the feeling that was created by this thought or emotion. And then the mind remains in a clear state. And that is what we call transforming the afflictive emotions into primordial awareness. Once you have understood that, the afflictive emotions, even if they arise, will no longer harm you in any way. In fact, they become an enhancement to your practice. They increase the power of your awareness. So this is how someone practices who really understands their secret mantra. And so we need to understand how imprints are placed in the mind. And if we continue to allow imprints to be placed into our mind, then awareness has lost to these afflictive emotions, and the afflictive emotions have gained victory. So there are many people of you who engage in practice. Some practice Mahamudra, some practice Dzogchen, but it's all the same meaning in the view of the perfection of wisdom. And essentially, it is mindfulness. There is no greater perfection of wisdom than mindfulness. When mindfulness encounters the afflictive emotions, then the falsity of the afflictive emotions will be exposed. And that means that you will directly see that the afflictive emotion is empty. It does not inherently exist. And if you can see that, then these emotions will not leave a feeling in your mind, because you will know that these are not real. These afflictions are not real. And none of these thoughts and afflictions is real. And when you realize that, then they become wisdom. For example, anger or hatred becomes the mirror-like wisdom, or attachment becomes the individually discriminating wisdom, and so on. The 5 afflictive emotions become the 5 wisdoms. And so you will gain certainty on the basis of your own personal experience. So that is really the essence of knowing the perfection of wisdom. And it can be applied to anything that you experience. So it is something that the key point is that you experience. So many people know how to explain the perfection of wisdom, but even if you know how to explain it well, it does not necessarily mean that you are liberated from suffering. So explanation is one thing, but Milarepa says that meditation or practice must be infused by an actual experience. You have to experience it. So these words are very important. So Milarepa said, when teaching the 10 paramitas, he said that aside from exposing the falsity of the afflictive emotions, there is no other perfection of primordial awareness than that. And he said that also aside from practicing virtue in whatever you do, there is no other perfection of method than that. And then he said, aside from defeating the 4 maras, there is no other perfection of power than that. And so these words of Milarepa are important, and you should keep them in mind at all times, the day and night, and really gain your own personal experience in this practice. So with that, Dharma friends, I have explained the Heart Sutra to the best of my abilities. Dashi Dele.
따와 또 마토는 유무 뭐 책도 보여 말이 제외 다다 똑책롱도 좀 봐. 인성 딱 하고 유무도 이제 또를 다라는 타도 저거리 들이 생각 매니도 관계지 배제해야지 배생도 남도래야지 이치대 매래야지 이제 말이가 송았다 다 뒤들은 양용라고 짜르지는 양고래 적지는 나 이시가 남도 짜장고 송요래 시합 남도 짜장고서 짜조사까지 매기 청는 짜장고 배제해 들이 다시들이 저이지 라가타와를 랑게 이치고 거래다 산이 삼아 바도를 랑도 거래 랑찍고 거래 라가타와를 랑게 이치고 스승 장만 다 매제 연거래 잡을린 사람 토스는 때 가요 말이지 얘라고 싸워 연거래.
Just one last and final word. It's quite important for my Dharma friends. And so that is, Milarepa also had said, is when you realize that afflictive emotions and primordial awareness are no different, you have mastered what is to be realized. You have to gain a direct experience in seeing the nature of your mind. And so it is just like, for example, when wood meets with fire, then you know then with 100% certainty that the wood will turn into fire. So fire really is inherent within the wood. There is no wood that doesn't turn into fire when met with fire. And so similarly, when met with awareness or wisdom awareness, then the afflictive emotion becomes just that. And you have to gain certainty in that fact. And when you gain certainty in that there is no other afflictive emotion, then or no other awareness than the afflictive emotion, they're one, just like fire and wood, you have ultimately like you have mastered the final like reaches of realization. So this is what you gain a personal experience in, and so this is what I myself have experienced. When, as Milarepa had said, fire meets with wood, wood turns into fire, and likewise when wisdom awareness meets with the thoughts, the afflictions, they turn into awareness themselves. But this is something to train in. So you need to use these afflictions and these thoughts to enhance the power of your awareness, to train your awareness. And this is also how it is termed in the Dzogchen teachings. We use thoughts to train in the power of our own awareness. And so thoughts then enhance the power of one's own awareness. It's just like wood, the more wood there is, the greater the fire will become. So it is something that you have to personally experience, so you really trust in your own personal experience, because later on, after you have died and go into the bardo, you have to go on alone. I'm alone in the bardo. And if I have gained confidence in this view, if I have resolved this, then as it was said in the Samantabhadra prayer, even if the 3 rams were to be destroyed, there is no fear. Even if the world comes to an end, it will be nothing. It will be nothing to your mind. So Dashidele. So everyone who joined on the live stream, very much long life.
Thank you, Rinpoche. That's precious teaching. So this Heart Sutra teaching, Buddha Shakyamuni shared 2,500 years ago. So Buddha Shakyamuni went into the non-door samadhi meditation. So Chinrezig recognized the Buddha Shakyamuni's non-door samadhi. And today we have this opportunity to hearing this teaching from Rinpoche. So we are really fortunate because Rinpoche is realized is same as Buddha Shakyamuni into samadhi meditation. So then his body embodiment right now, we seeing form is the same as Chinrezig. His form is love and the compassion form body Chinrezig. So he shared directly this teaching for us today. So we are really fortunate and receiving this precious teaching from Rinpoche. Thank you very much, Rinpoche. Long life, Tashi Dele. Very happy to see Rinpoche today. It's when we see you, it's like shining and amazing. So Rinpoche's age is younger than before. So looks like right now we're seeing you are like teenager, like 16-year-old Bodhisattva's form body. Thanks Rinpoche, long life. And also then today, so this teaching organized by Drikung Dharma Surya and Kon Amanda worked very hard, put this teaching together. And then we have many Zoom organizers, Susu and Fan, and they have many groups. So thank you very much, everyone. And then today in this teaching, we have a Drikung Dharma Surya Center, Gadruma Buddhist Center, and GARCHEN Meditation Center in Canada. So these all sanghas every day coming together and join practice together, organized by Zone organized by Debbie and Mary from Ohio and Canada, Measure and Maryland, and Drikung Dharma Surya Amanda. They all every day they bring sanghas together and practice together. Appreciate everyone. Thank you very much. And so then today, specifically this organizer Zone group also are going to appreciate it. Thank you very much. And then thank you to Kon and Amanda. So work very hard for this practice teaching. Thank you. Tashi Dele Long Love Rinpoche.
Pola, it's a Zoom bodhicitta for all. We have many volunteers who have helped us. So thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity.
Group. So Kon going to say some words after here. Kon. You are mute, Kon.
Okay, you heard that?